Well, hello there, Meow Mentors. It's Cat Lady Justin, and this is the Kitty Boss, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. Today, this is a special show. We don't normally come on this early UK time, but I have the founder of a pet food company. So actually share this with your dog lover friends too, because this pet food is remarkable. Now, I have an incredible story to say, but suffice it to say that within 3 days, an issue that has been plaguing Emily and Charlotte for 8 years was cured. It just went away. And I'd been trying everything to make it go away. Just changing the food did. Wait until you hear what it was, because you'll never think that food could actually solve this particular problem. So I'm going to leave it there, cliffhanger, and introduce you to the founder of Bella and Duke, the greatest pet food company I've ever seen or used, and I've tried dozens. Mark. So Mark, there he is. Mark Scott, welcome to the show, the Kitty Boss. It's wonderful to meet you finally and see you.
Thank you, Justin. Wow. I mean, just like I love that introduction. I'm on the cliffhanger as well. I want to know what we
You
did
want to
right.
know? Of course you do. Yeah, I think I told your people, but I don't think I've ever revealed to you what
No,
this
this
is,
is
because this is
quiet.
actually the first time we meet. I tend to like to do interviews like that, both when I'm on the receiving end and the giving end, because I find that natural sort of, you can sometimes capture lightning in a bottle, whereas if you have prepared canned answers, the energy is just weird like that. So I just love the feeling this way.
I
I'm like, I
know
don't
what
want to meet
you
you. I
mean.
don't want to pre-prepare everything. I want this to be, love at first sight. I mean, I mean that in a respectful way, not in a weird romantic way. I'm taken anyway. So, so that's it's like I said, it's really an honor to meet you, and I'm very grateful that you're on the show because your products from your company have been literally life changing for my cats, and of course for me too, because my cats are my salvation and my everything. So just seeing them doing so well on that food has just made my entire existence. So I think it's an awesome thing. And of course, the services from your company are fantastic as well. You have a wonderful team. And I'm going to tell you this right now because it's not cat related, but as a business person and as a leader, that says everything that you need to know. I was just at an awards dinner yesterday because, I won an award for business and all that. That's my other stuff. This is kind of a side hustle. So, and one of the things that they said, the speeches that were given, that were said was, it's taking care of your team. It's having a team who are happy, who are engaged, who are this. That's what makes for a great company and growing company leadership. And they went on and on and on, but we don't have time to cover everything. But just, I see that. So I know that you're not only a brilliant formulator of, cat food, but you're also a great leader for your business in terms of just that kind of stuff. So I'm really honored to meet you for many reasons.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. Can you tell my mum?
I can. If you give me your email address, I'll tell mom, hey, you know what, Mark's a good guy. But here's the thing. So there are two questions that appear in your email footer. One of them I'll answer, and one of them I'm actually going to ask you. So the first one is that you have down there. I'm going to read it because I don't want to get it wrong. It says 8.7 million species on planet Earth. How many eat cooked processed foods? So how many? Do you know the answer to that one?
Well, my typical answer to that is as in human beings and the domesticated animals that we feed.
That's what I thought. And so human beings and the animals we care for. Then of
Yeah.
course there's another one. There's another part to that thing, which is which species have seen a massive increase in chronic diseases? And the answer is the same. It's us
Yeah,
and our pets.
absolutely.
And in
Absolutely.
fact, I tell people. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say it's miraculous, that, isn't it? It's just when you talk about it in that way, you realize actually, because when you think about raw feeding, you naturally think like you're going to put a raw sausage in your mouth. I don't know what images we imagine. Oh, it's going to be all blood and guts and stuff. But what you
Yeah.
realize is actually it's unusual to eat cooked food, and it's more natural, and our body's designed to eat as raw as possible. So yes, and then the
Definitely.
chronic diseases that follow that.
Yeah, and so you hit upon a great point, which is for humans, the pockets of longevity in the world, such as Vilcabamba in South America
Yeah,
or certain places in Eastern Europe, the places where people regularly expect to live over 100 years, which is rare, except in these places where it's actually unusual and rare if you die below 100. These places all have nothing in common. They're not vegans. Some of them eat a ton of meat. Some of them eat raw monkey meat in South America, raw monkey meat that has been killed with a poison dart. Okay, so that's not exactly what you would think is normal vegan health conscious.
yeah,
It's not dairy free. It's not alcohol free. Some of them will smoke occasionally. Two things they actually do have in common. Number one's walking. They all walk a lot on
yeah.
their feet. Sometimes you'd be surprised in seeing like a 90-year-old walking for like 4 hours straight. And it's like, some of us young folks couldn't do that. I could, most people I know wouldn't be able to do that. And then the other thing they have in common is they eat very close to nature, almost no processed food at all. So those are the only two things they have in common. It's not yoga, it's not a form of exercise, it's not meditation. Some of them do, some don't. It's those two things. It's a close to nature diet and walking a lot.
And it's
for our
locally produced
pets,
often, isn't it? It's locally produced, and often they may be involved in that production. Whether it's a olive groves or whatever. So by the nature of it, they're moving around, as you say. Your body's moving. You're not sitting behind the computer all day doing the opposite of what we should be doing. So mentally, you're probably working with a small group of people as well. So you've got all that social part coming into your life. So all these things massively improve that wealth and health and well-being of humans. And it's the same for our pets. If you leave your cat and dog in the house all day by themselves, they're packs. They're meant to be part of the pack of the group. So all these things play a part in the longevity of it. And that's that's how I got into pet food, because of that.
Because of that. Oh, that's really cool. That's interesting. And the other, of course, part of this equation here is I'm always sad to hear pets, cats, dogs living so short, 12-year, 14-year life expectancy. I'm like, my Emily is 11. My Charlotte will turn 10 in May. And I'm like, wow, I mean, that's like end of life scenarios. Now, if you talk about the typical thing, I don't want that. And then you hear about the longest lived cat I heard in recorded history lived to be, I think, 38 years old as the world record. And then there are cats that live over 30. And so you think, what happened? What happened that the lifespan of our cats and dogs has shrunk? And that shortening of the lifespan actually coincides perfectly with the invention of pet food, with the invention of kibble and processed pet foods for convenience purposes. At that moment in time, the lifespan of cats and dogs, it became unusual for them to live over 20 years. Whereas before, cats and dogs were living to be over 20 on a regular routine basis. I hope mine do. And so I think that's really the other part of what we're just talking about here. Now, before we go on, there's something really important. I think we go, because you said when people think of raw food, we think of blood and guts, this and that. And yeah. So what we're talking about here is not you running off to the butcher and getting a bunch of organs and meat and concocting something at home. I know people who do that. I personally don't have the capacity to do that, both mentally, physically. It's just not in my wheelhouse to do that kind of thing. So that's not what we're talking about here. Nor are we talking about some kind of risky, dangerous, potential salmonella-laden manufacturing process. It's like, I have to be so careful with this because nor are we talking about opening a package and there's so much gross things in there that smell, smell like decaying flesh. We're not talking about any of that. That's absolutely off the table. That's not what you created at all. So I'm going to tell you how I experience the food, and then you can tell me your side of things. So number one, what convinced me is that it's all certified raw safe, regulated also by the authorities. So if it wasn't, you'd be in trouble. And let's and let's get another thing off the table, and that is that some of these major brands that are huge, multi-billion-dollar owned by these, what? Anyway, I don't want to get into that whole rabbit hole, but they're perfectly safe, and like you can trust them, and you can't trust the little companies, because let's remember that not what is it, a year ago roughly, there was a massive recall because a massive amount of cats and some dogs were dying because of a series of national fame brand pet foods that had been contaminated in some gigantic, ridiculous manufacturing process. And Pets at Home released the warnings and all that because there was a recall, and if you owned these brands, you better bring it back, get your money back, because you could be killing your pet. So these massive corporations, God bless them, they do not have all of the trustworthiness, safety, or anything as a monopoly by any stretch of the imagination. So we're not talking about anything like that. We have a raw, safe product that's certified and regulated, number one. Number two, it's so easy to do because it comes in the form of a pate. So you actually can't tell the difference. You can't tell if it's raw or not, because it's no different than opening a can of, Lily's Kitchen food, which is good organic food, but it's not raw. And certainly when my cats ate it, they had all the health problems. They had the things I was talking about earlier. So whatever. So this stuff, you can't tell it and it doesn't smell bad. It smells neutral. It's it kind of smells good actually. So there's no odors from it. There's no, even if you leave it out for a few hours, which I've done by accident, it doesn't reek. It's safe. It's pleasant looking. It looks like any pet food. In fact, it smells a lot better than some major brand wet food. Honestly, it smells a lot better because it's very mild and neutral in smell. And the cats love it. They devour it. They're not fussy with it. Mine aren't. So that's my take. That's been my experience with this cat food. So and you have dog food too, by the way. So if anyone's listening, share it with dog lovers too. So what's your side of the story with all this?
Yes, going back to your original point, what's important is getting a balanced diet, and what we try and do is mimic what a natural prey would be like. So they would eat almost from top to tail and everything in between, as we did as humans. We used to eat everything, but now we tend to eat more like muscle meat, so we never eat the organs, we never eat the rest of the stuff that we used to eat. Unlike our grandparents, they used to do it and create bone broths. So what we do is we mimic natural prey. So we'll get a lot of the organs, meats, the actually good quality stuff that we've stopped eating in the Western world, which has all the nutrients in it, all the really packed-full great stuff for us to live a healthier life. So that's number one. So what we do is we get all those great ingredients, and we put them together and balance it out and make sure it hits the criteria from FEDIAF. Now, what's interesting about FEDIAF, which is, I guess, the guidelines for pet food companies to follow, they're not enforced, but they're definitely guidelines to push you there. And there was
so what does that stand for?
And now you've got me on that one, because I can never remember the word FEDIAF. If you Google it,
that's okay. We'll have to look it up.
Yeah. So what we do is, what was interesting when I looked at the FEDIAF, it talks about all the nutrients and stuff. So I could literally, and I'm taking the mick a little bit here, I could go and get a bag of sand. I could go and get all the minerals and vitamins, mix it up together and pour it into the sand, and that would pass FEDIAF. And the reason it would pass FEDIAF is because they don't look at the actual ingredients. They just look at the nutritional values. So the way, again, it's a bit like, the way I view it is it's like cancer treatment. Not only do you kill the good cells, but you kill the bad cells. And antibiotics, they kill the good flora and the bad flora. If we're not looking at the delivery mechanisms of these nutrients, then we're missing a massive part of the food and how it affects the body. And again, synthetic man-made nutrients and vitamins, we don't know how they're absorbed by the body. Where if it's in its natural state, Mother Nature's been doing this for years and years and years and done not bad at it. So we try and replicate that with people in white coats, and we have absolutely no, real proof of how that affects pets. And the thing with food, especially highly processed food with poor ingredients, is it's not like you eat poison and then you notice it straight away. It's a slow process. And that's how the cigarette companies got away with it for so long, because it was very difficult to prove that smoking caused cancer. I mean, they've proved a lot of it now, but they kept saying, well, how can you prove that cigarette actually caused the lung cancer? Very difficult, because it's not like you smoked and then suddenly died. So that's been a challenge, and it's a challenge in the food industry. But now that we're testing the gut biome and starting to connect things together, there's now research and development coming out to back up what we're seeing. And exactly what you said, Justin, you're seeing in your pets already. And the other piece to this is, the reason it doesn't smell is fresh meat shouldn't smell. It just shouldn't stink. Tripe in itself adds a little smell, and nothing you can do about that. But fresh meat, when you open a steak fresh, it just doesn't smell. So what happens, the process that we have at Bella and Duke is, after 2 days of the animal being slaughtered, we actually get it, and it's frozen, and it remains frozen. We actually process it through our factory frozen, so it never goes above zero, and it remains frozen right through to the packing and into our freezers. So the only ever time that you actually defrost that meat is when you get it in your fridge and you defrost it. So basically, it's got a very long shelf life. We say 4 days just for safety, but that reduces the chances of, as you say, salmonella, etc. We're controlling all that through the process. Many companies aren't doing that. They'll bring the food up to normal room temperature and then process it and then freeze it back down again. We don't. We get it frozen, we process it frozen, and it gets into our freezers. And it's not until you get it to your house that you actually defrost it, which is why you don't get the stink.
That's fantastic. And there's a couple things that came to mind when you say that. And first of all, actually, we don't eat organ meats, but organ meats are good for people too. I like them, and I do actually eat them once in a while, because I'm lucky to live in a place where I have a raw dairy farm nearby, so I can get raw milk. I know people in the United States are like, what? Because it's illegal. It's like I could be arrested for that. And I'm like, that's insane to be arrested for milk. But anyway, so I'm so lucky because I get my raw milk on Wednesdays. I have a biodynamic vegetable farm with chickens. So I get the best quality stuff there. And I have a butcher here that does hearts and liver and kidney and all that. But you know what? Those are good. They taste good. They're yummy. It doesn't taste like minced beef, but it has its own and I love it. So I do eat that stuff, but I know most people don't, and it is very healthy for you. It has so many vitamins and nutrients in it that are not in the muscle meat, and so it's really good. So that's number one came to mind. It's good for people too. But number two, it's the stink in the food. It's like when you go to a fishmonger, one of the things that always baffles me is people tolerating that stinky, fishy smell, because that just means the fish is not fresh. Because if it's really, really fresh, it does not smell like that at all. My place where I get my fishmonger here, again, I'm very lucky. I have one that has fresh fish that has no stink to it whatsoever. My mom's French. She lives in Paris, so I go there regularly. And where the good fishmongers are, because they don't stink. If it stinks, we don't shop there. And it's just remarkable how people just don't realize that stinky food is usually not good food unless it's a special kind of cheese, whatever. But that meat should not stink. And yours doesn't, for sure it doesn't, because I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want to have a foul odor in my house on a daily basis. So it's amazing. So why don't I tell you, reveal finally this mystery of what specifically I was talking about with my cats, because here's what happened. So Emily and Charlotte are my cats. They're two girls, and both of them have had dandruff their entire life since they were little kittens.
Yeah.
And I was brushing them every day. I was trying different foods. So I don't know, maybe a dozen brands, always high quality. I don't think any, I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get like, I don't want to offend anyone, but no low quality stuff has ever crossed the lines. You know the brands I'm talking about,
Yeah.
ones with that black and white cat on the cover or whatever. None of that. I don't think that's not only not fit for human consumption. I don't believe it's fit for animal consumption either. And so the thing is so they've always had what I thought high quality, usually organic food, but it's not worked. None of it made any difference. The other thing we tried is this gently cooked concept. So there's this concept that because some people are so into this like bacteria thing with raw food that they say, well, we gently cook it. We either heat dry it, so dehydrated, and then you rehydrate it, or we serve like the pate that's frozen, but it's gently steam cooked just to remove any harmful pathogens. Now, okay, so I've tried that too. None of that did anything. I've also tried supplements, different supplements, and none of that solved the dandruff problem. And only, I'm a relatively customer. Less than 1 year, so about I don't know now, maybe 7 months or so they've been eating it. So they tried it 7 months ago. So you can imagine how many years this is, because I told you how old my cats are. So
Yeah.
9 years, one had dandruff and then the other one is older. So for 10 years she had dandruff, and nothing worked. And then I get this bill of Duke, and the reason I tried it is because first order is a dirt cheap. I'm assuming it's a loss leader for you, because it's really like comes out to like £1 a day or something. And so I was, you know what I got, and I'll share a link with on the screen and with everybody in a minute. But I said, you know what? I have nothing to lose. It's cheaper than any cat food I've ever bought, number one. Number two, the worst case scenario is they hate it, don't like it, and it's food wastage because I'll have to bin it all because it's raw frozen food. They don't want it, so I can't give it to someone else, so it goes in the bin. That's the worst case scenario. But the best case scenario is, of course, it's great. So after the incredibly cheap trial period of 2 weeks, then it's actually affordable. It's actually not more expensive than, let's say, a Lily's Kitchen diet, which is a good brand. So I'm not criticizing them. So it's equivalent to a quality cat food. It's not equivalent to the cheap garbage from Poundland. It's equivalent to a good, but it's not exorbitantly expensive like some brands, like I think one's called Origin or something. Again, not a bad brand, but it's expensive. So it fits a lot of budgets. And I understand it doesn't fit every budget, and that's okay. And so I said, okay, so this is great. So I can afford it once it's outside, because there's no sense in teasing my cats with something that I can't fit in my budget at all. So I can afford it afterwards, but it's worth a try. So I tried it. And within 3 days of eating the food, and they did not need a massive transition period. I know you guys teach, here's how you should transition. I started them on that, but they liked it so much that I didn't need it. Because normally my cats would nibble, and then the food would sit there all day long, and they'd go nibble it as they start to get starving. Whereas now they kind of just devour the whole thing, and I'm done. I'm like, so they love it. Within 3 days, both of them, and one's a long hair, one's a short hair, both of them, the dandruff went away. It hasn't come back since. And the funniest part is, I now very rarely even brush them. So I have a long hair cat who used to get dandruff and matting, and I even one time had to take her to the vet for a shaving. And I used to brush her on a daily basis every single day. And that didn't, and that frustrated me that didn't work. And now I don't brush her in once a week. So I brush her sometimes, maybe once a week or so, and she has no mats, no dandruff, no knots. And anytime someone comes to the house, like today, I think in an hour, someone's coming to help me with some stuff around the house, they always say, "My goodness, your cats have such amazing coats. Their fur is so soft and shiny and beautiful and perfect." And so I keep telling them, "And you know what? I don't even brush them." And so that is nothing short of miraculous, Mark,
Yeah,
honestly.
no, I mean that's great to hear, and it doesn't surprise me, and I'll answer a couple of things that you brought up there as well. So I did an experiment about 2 years ago, and I ate like a dog on processed food. So I went from naturally eating keto kind of sort of food that I tend to focus on, and I ate processed foods, pizzas, pastas, bread, did all the stuff about what I think a dog on processed food would eat. Um, and I did that for 2 months, and not only did I put 2 stone on,
Oh,
I was measuring all my metrics because I'm a biohacker, and one of the things that happened was I got lots of dry skin on my body, and I noticed that, and I'm just like, oh wow, I've never had dry skin like this before. And I go, this is what many cats and dogs are suffering from, because it's the biggest organ on the body, and if you're going to get rid of toxins, you get it rid through your skin. So one of the biggest things that you spot whenever you move a pet onto raw is the skin and the fur just massively improves. Exactly what you've seen, Justin. Now, if you imagine what happens on the outside, imagine what's happening on the inside of the body that you're not seeing. And one of the obvious ones for me was I got 2 rescue cats over Christmas, and they were on a big brand, and my eyes were watering when they used the cat litter.
oh yeah.
Okay, wow, how can that be producing such evilness? um,
Yeah.
and and I don't know if your cats have been inside or out, but within one day of putting her on Bella and Duke, I'm like, not quite like roses, but certainly.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't eat it, but
But it was a lot better. And I'm like, that's just like the proof that you see in a couple of days and a couple of weeks. As you identified, that's one of the big things. And the other thing, when I went back to my natural food, I actually got gout of all things, which I've never had before. So my body was just like totally thrown out of its normal routine. Now, what we're understanding as humans and as pets, as animals, is the gut biome plays a massive role in the health of ourselves and our pets. Now, if you're feeding the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can imagine how poor the gut biome is. And they just don't have that variety. So that in itself is going to cause the body issues. So, and the final piece is you talk about their hair and stuff like that, but also from a health and wellness point of view, we're also seeing people saying they're having to go to the vets less because they haven't got this chronic inflammation going on. So there's all these benefits. So yes, it might cost you more than your supermarket brand, but really it's not, because if you take the whole wellness of your pet, you'll probably find they live longer and healthier. So we've got lifespan and we've got health span. And our goal at Bella and Duke has always been, let's get the two matching together. Let's not have you really old on lots of medication. Let's have you get into a really good age, looking really good. So that was always there, and it's great to hear you say it, because these are the things when I wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, and I don't say, "Oh, he's good looking." I go, "Hey, look at that!" I go, "This is why I do what I do." I love it. I love the fact that food can either be a poison or it can be a medicine. Let's produce food that is helping pets live a longer lasting life. That's really the goal of Bella and Duke. So those stories that you tell me, it just makes me more motivated to get the story out there. And I really appreciate you putting that story out there, because it's not me saying it, it's you saying it, it's what our community say. And it's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if most of your customers have similar sort of scenarios happening with their animals where it's just, wow, it solved this problem. Because I didn't even mention what happened with their teeth. That's I might save that for another thing, because that's another long story of a chronic issue that both of them have had their whole lives, that has despite brushing on a daily basis, and now that problem is infinitely better, if not gone. And I still brush their teeth, but that's another thing because that's just a habit I've gotten into. But and nothing else works. So, I mean, it's just a remarkable thing. The idea here, see, I'm a bit of a biohacker too. So I measure my stuff, and and I follow some of these famous names that we probably both know, like Dave Asprey or Ben Greenfield, or all these people who are biohackers. I don't do everything they say because they have that's their full-time job, whereas I have other things to do. And I'm also I also have to watch my perfectionism because I do have a tendency to do things either 300% or nothing. But then again, I'm not a professional biohacker, so if I spend a full time doing that, then I'm not earning a living. So for me, it's I have to watch it. So I attempt to be 80% on point with things like diet and exercise, and I forgive myself if I'm desiring a pizza, or if I'm out and I have something else. I definitely don't restrict myself in that way. But it's just, I have the same, reactions. If I, like last night at the awards dinner, I had, the food that they served us, and granted, I didn't, I didn't like collapse or develop any diseases from it, but I didn't react to it the same way that I react to the biodynamic vegetables and eggs and, and the stuff that I eat normally. So it was a different, sort of reaction. I noticed that I immediately, pretty much after the last, bite of dinner, started yawning all the time. I normally don't yawn after a meal, but I just and it was almost embarrassing because we're at an event, an awards thing, and there's about like 200 people there, and it's like uh-oh. So I started, like, it was really annoying actually, but that's the food reaction. So same thing happens with your animals. If they're lethargic, if they're slow, if my cats are now, they're considered seniors, but both of them are energetic as any. You can tell if you were here now, they're not here, but sometimes they come here and I can pull them up and show you. You wouldn't guess that's a senior cat. They look vibrant and healthy and full of life. And both indoor house cats, because I believe in that. I talk with our behaviorist friends, and they say that's absolutely fine, and that's actually preferable if you live in an area, especially that has risks outside and all that. So I take them out in the garden with me once in a while, but on the whole, they stay in. And I did notice, just like you, the poop. The poop was not smelling that bad because, again, they were always on a decent diet, in terms of high quality. But on the other hand, now, I want to take that poo, take it out of the litter box, put it in some pita, and eat it. I'm joking. I don't want to do that. I don't want to eat it, but it doesn't smell. It doesn't smell. And now you said that you noticed that it doesn't smell like roses, but it's not. It doesn't smell good, but it actually has no smell. Like, I cleaned it just this morning. I had something to clean out. It doesn't have any odor in it at all. Once in a while, it comes back, and I'll tell you when I give them treats. So just like I don't expect perfectionism, sometimes I give them some junk food, and when they eat the kitty junk food, that's when the poo-poo smells a bit bad. Otherwise, it actually has no smell at all. Mine doesn't. So I think that's a remarkable thing. And I mean, it solves so many problems, if not all problems, with these animals, that it really is worth investigating. Now, I have a quick question for you, because you can tell I am a British citizen and I live in the Nottingham area, but you thought I was American because I sound American, and I am half American. So I have a lot of friends and a lot of viewers and listeners who are in the USA. I don't think Bella and Duke is at a point of exporting internationally yet, are you?
No, definitely not. So
No.
we're just trying to keep up with our UK demand. So
yeah. So maybe one day that you can 10x and start exporting globally. So I just to let everybody know, don't be heartbroken if you can't get Bella and Duke, because you are in the United States. Just ask me. I do know of some companies that are doing some great work in raw foods for cats and dogs in the United States of America. Is it as ideal as Bella and Duke? No. However, it's almost. And maybe they're watching and they can learn something from Mark here and there, and they can step up to the plate, or maybe you guys could develop some kind of joint venture, or I don't know. But the thing is I am aware of some companies. So don't be heartbroken. You can still take this advice on board. But if you are in the UK, then I highly endorse and recommend you go to the website on your screen and try it. I mean, it's more than half off. So half off would be a steal. More than half off is not just a steal, it's a loss for these guys. So try it. If you hate it, then that's it. The worst case scenario is you put a bunch of food in the bin. The best case scenario is you've solved a lot of problems for you and your cat. So for the benefit of people who are just listening, because most people do, and not watching, it's www. The website is thekittyboss.com/Bella Duke. So TheKittyBoss.com/BELLADUKE. Thekittyboss.com/Bella and Duke. And from there, you get more than half off. It's a loss. You cannot find cat food that cheap, even at Home Bargains or Poundland. So try it. If you hate it, okay, you've thrown stuff in the bin, but you won't. I can virtually guarantee you won't. And here's the thing. Mark said something really interesting and really cool earlier. And you said that actually it's not super premium expensive price. It's not dirt price. It's right here. However, if you think about what it will do to your cat and for your cat, you're going to save a lot of money on vet bills. And that's the truth. Because let's see. When Charlotte got super matted, and even though I was brushing her every day, 7 days a week, and she was eating good organic cat food, she was bad but it was to an extent that I couldn't get the mess out or safely cut it. So she had to go to a vet or groomer to get it shaved out, and that cost me 70 pounds or 60 pounds. I don't remember. Let's say 60 pounds. 60 British pounds, right? So that was not cheap to have to spend that money. Now, I don't brush her. Maybe once every 2 weeks, she gets a quick brush. Her fur is in perfect condition. I mean, it's show cat condition. People come here and go, wow. They literally go, wow. And so I could have saved that money. So the idea here is you can pay now or you can pay later. But either way, you're going to pay. So you can either pay now and get some quality cat food that's going to solve all their problems, or you can pay later by visiting the vet and having to have surgery or shaving or whatever. It's your choice. But if you have a cat, you're going to pay now or pay later. And that's kind of the moral of the story. Now, what about those poor folks who absolutely, there's just no way they can swing any of that because they're completely indigent? Should they not own a cat? My philosophy is go ahead and feed them the cheap stuff, because the priority is to get these millions of cats a loving home first. And then, of course, the ideal lifestyle. So they're better off with a loving, caring home than in a shelter. So if you absolutely, it's out of the question, fine.
Can I just add something to that as well? There's a study come out as well that even if you feed a minimum of 25% of, say, Bella and Duke, you still get a lot of the benefits. So if you need to make the food last longer, substitute it. We're not like on this, it's one or the other. Absolutely not. To your point, we're in inflammatory times. Inflation's gone a little bit through the roof, and the cost of living is, and pets being in a loving home, absolutely. But you can bulk the food out, not a problem at all, and still get benefits.
So that's great, because I noticed I have a regular subscription, but because of the quantity that my cats need, the minimum order for viable delivery, obviously for a business, you can't be seeing one little tiny package every two, so is a little bit more than what they need. So I'm tending to accumulate my freezer capacity, in other words, beyond what I can fit in the freezer. So what I do is very simple. I log into my account and I just pause one time, and that way I pause it and then I unpause it, because I just skip one of the deliveries 2 weeks, and then I restart again. And I don't have to do that every time. I just do that every like 3-4 deliveries. I just do a pause and skip one delivery, and that kind of makes my freezer space manageable. So if someone is out there and they do need to stretch it out, then they can do the same thing. They can order and then just pause it for, as long as they need to pause it, and then just restart it, get another 2 week supply, and then pause it again. And that's absolutely fine, because now it's a good reminder, because you reminded me of that, because I also heard it from our good friends in the USA, the two crazy cat ladies who manufacture supplements for cats. So things to help with fleas, with worms, with all kinds of conditions. But they are, you would love them, because they're so natural that they're not only safe and good for cats, they're actually safe and good for you. I mean, she even demonstrated and grabbed the flea spray and sprayed it in her mouth. The human did, and it's fine. It's that safe. You would love these guys, because and in fact, I love them so much. I take the sting of customs and pay the customs tax just to get the products from over there, and it literally doubles the price, because I pay 75 pounds for like a 45 pound product. But I do it because it's so good for them, and I'm crazy, so I I do that for my cats. So you might, if you want me to, just tell me. I'll send you their information. But they're amazing. And so, but the point is everyone should probably go try this, because it's cheaper than the cheapest cat food for the trial period, and then do what you can afford, because they shared with me when I interviewed them that study that showed that even 25% raw food and the rest of it junk food has a positive impact, a significant one, on the health of the cat. So even if you give them one, serving of Bella and Duke, every other day, or 3 times a week or whatever, or you just add a little bit to every meal. So every meal you just add a little spoonful of it in there, and you really stretch it out for a long time. Even that will make a huge difference. So really everyone should be doing this, because you've just taken away the affordability problem. So because really with the intro offer, so everyone can afford it, and then after the intro offer, just stretch it out, just make it last a lot longer, and you're done. The last thing I think I'd like to ask you, just in closing, is because we talked a lot about I don't like the word alternative, complementary ideas in terms of science and health and nutrition and all that. But I believe, if I read correctly, that you did consult with some medical professionals, like veterinarians, in formulating the food and making sure it's nutritionally complete with all the taurine and all the nutrients and minerals and vitamins that the cat needs, or the dog needs, if it's a doggy person. You did consult with the expert scientists in the field, so we don't have to worry about that. I read that, right? That was not
that's
making up.
actually correct. And as you alluded to, being biohackers, you're always learning the latest science as well, because what we know right now will be different tomorrow, and we're continuously learning and evolving it. So we've got vets on board, got nutritionists on board. So yes, 100%. When things are happening in the human world, we will then go, okay, cool. Could this affect our pets as well? Because we're very similar in many ways.
Fantastic. So, Mark, is there anything else you'd like to say or ask before we end off our interview? I'll give you the last word, so to speak.
I just like you say, I appreciate it. I mean, like you say, to the whole offer thing, it's better in Duke's goal to get as many cats and dogs off highly processed food as possible. So it is investing in that first box, because people are nervous around raw feeding, and it's our investment, so you can check it out with your pets, because I want to say the proof is in the pudding. It's not. The proof is in the main course, and you will see a difference. And with cats, they can be a little bit tricky, so do persevere. Sometimes it can take up to 6 weeks to get them across the line, but hand on heart, it's absolutely worth it. Because if you look at our ingredients deck, you will recognize every bit of ingredients in there, and you go, I know that, I know that, I know that. that means that your body also, your cat's body recognizes it as well, and it's natural. But I really
It's natural.
appreciate
And
talking about it
yeah.
today, Justin. It's really great that you're championing this. Thank you.
Oh, definitely. And you know what? And the results speak for themselves, which is and the best salesmen are your silent salesmen, your results. And what I got for my cats in terms of results is the best salesman for me. And so for everyone listening or watching, the best salesman is not me, not Mark. It's to go ahead and try it for less than £1 a day for 2 weeks of food. I mean, you're again cheaper than Poundland, cheaper than Home Bargains. It's the cheapest of the cheap. That will sell it to you, and then you'll work out your budget, how many times a day you can afford to feed the cats. That's totally up to you. But the first one, the first 2 weeks is so cheap. It's hard to sell it because I'd have to like pick up the cat. But then even if I showed her to you, you didn't see her before. You didn't see her a year ago. So how would you know? Because I didn't take pictures of their dandruff. So it's like you would know that kind of stuff. The vet would know. You could talk to my vet. But again, that would be to sell it to the vet. So the best thing for people to do is to try, is to have that trial box. It's again so cheap that literally everyone can afford it. If maybe not, you know, a homeless person, but that God bless them, you know, maybe the shelter can get it for them. But the thing is that it's so worth it that I would suggest that that's, for me, that reveals you're more than just a businessman. You're on a mission really to help these cats. Just like I'm on a mission to help 1 million more cats get adopted, because I can't take the heartbreak of seeing these cats on the internet that need adopting. I would take them all if I had space for 1 million cats in here. So I want 1 million more to get adopted in the US, the UK, and all over the world. And so I'm doing everything I can to do that. You're obviously on a mission, because there's no way you'd be insane to offer, as a business person, you'd be stupid and insane to offer such a cheap introductory offer where you're losing money on it, unless you really believed that would that would not only convince people, but it would make a difference to the lives of the pets. So that's amazing. Thank you, Mark, for being on the show, for doing what you do, for being who you are. Like I said, it's been an honor, and I'm very grateful for you being here on the show. So thank you again. I'm going to go and say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll have a quick catch up with you. So guys, thank you for joining us. This cat lady, Justin. This has been The Boss, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. Remember, there's nothing better you can do to pamper your pet and to protect them than feed them the best food for their health, for their well-being, for their happiness, and for their longevity, so they can potentially live to 30. That's the best thing. So watch out for the next episode, because we got a good one coming up too. So we'll see you real soon.